in 1937. Brother Barton, you follow me? Over 37,000 Africans from Haiti were murdered in the space of 5 days. 37,000 people killed it was mass slaughter. And it was done on the orders of a man called Trujillo. And this gentleman who was in charge of Domrep at the time, many of you wouldn't know by looking at his pictures, but his mother was black Haitian. And what he used to do in the morning when he went to work was he'd have them cover his uniform and powder his face. If he had bleaching cream, he would have used that, but he didn't have it. So he had to powder his face. So we see how these outward expressions of self-hate become twisted, and they can actually make us into our worst enemies. Do we see that, brothers and sisters? And so we really have to use this emancipation project and this opportunity to raise the consciousness and the understanding of our people and teach them to love themselves in their natural beauty and to recognize themselves and to recognize their ancestors and their contribution to civilization. All these things are important to the upliftment of our people. And so on that note, I just want to end by sharing the hope for the 21st century. In the last century, our people, starting off with the Pan-African Conference in London in 1900, organized by Trinidadian Henry Sylvester Williams, props to Trinidadians, right? And then taken from there by Brother Marcus Garvey in his Pan-African movement and others. We stretched out our hands to Africa every chance we could get. When the Trinidadian brother organized that conference in 1900, he petitioned the Queen to come out of Africa. He said, you all Europeans need to come out of Africa. Marcus was organizing an army, right? It's right here in song. He says, advance, advance to victory. Let Africa be free. Advance to meet the foe. Advance to meet the foe with the might of the red, black, and green. Marcus was organizing an army to free Africa. He declared himself the president of the African race, and he envisioned a unity of the continent, of a United States of Africa. Marcus wasn't joking around. So our people in the Caribbean were the leaders of the Pan-African movement of the 20th century. When there was apartheid in South Africa, we protested in Trinidad. We got together, we raised funds, and we sent it to the ANC so they could fight. When there was hunger in Ethiopia, we raised funds, we showed films, and we sent that money and food to help our brothers and sisters who were starving. Now come to the 21st century. The Africans are starting to get our brothers and sisters on the continent are starting to get their act together. They haven't formed the United States of Africa, but they formed an African Union. Right? And now you find that the neo-colonial exploitation that was so easy, the manipulation that Europeans used to do, go into a country, give one group arms, give a next group arms, make them fight each other while you take in the resources. They can't do it anymore. Now they have to deal with powerful governments and powerful institutions. So times are changing. So what you find happening now? 7 of the fastest growing economies, of the 10 fastest growing economies in the world are on the continent of Africa. Why is that? Because Africa is still the richest continent on the face of the earth. After all the looting and the stealing and the thieving, all the diamonds and the cobalt and the gold, Africa is still the richest continent on the face of the earth. And projections are, by 2015, those economies, 1 or 2 of them, will outstrip China in terms of rates of growth. So this brings us to the 21st century. As I said, we stretched forth our hands in the 20th century. Now the African Union is beginning to recognize the contribution that we made. And they are stretching forth their hands to us. And this is the project that Sister Martha and my father, Kafra Kambon, are involved with the Diaspora Initiative. It is the greatest hope for our salvation in the 21st century. It means that there is a new space of cooperation between the continent and its diaspora. Now, some leaders are further ahead than others. For example, President Wade in Senegal, when they had the earthquake in Haiti and CARICOM couldn't decide if we were going to help, the president of Senegal in West Africa said any Haitian who wants to come to Senegal will be welcome, and they will be given citizenship, land, and something to start off with. You all remember that? Go and look it up if you don't remember. That's the truth. That is the truth, brothers and sisters. Right? He just built a fantastic monument in Senegal to African people there and to African pride. So you have some leaders that are further ahead than others. But this has to become part of the emancipation project. We have to become organized so that when Martha and they finish their task, because Martha and Kafra are the first two representatives from the diaspora on this particular body of the AU, which is the highest decision-making body on the African continent. The work that they are doing to pioneer and to build this cooperation can't just stay at the level of cooperation. You and me, people, we have to take it further. At some point, in fact, maybe as early as next year, because we had the last AU meeting in Trinidad, and Sister Martha was supposed to be there, but she didn't make it. We had the last AU meeting in Trinidad, was to set up a standing committee to look at how we could deepen that cooperation, to give advice to the meeting of heads of government, which is going to take place, I think, in South Africa, correct? South Africa, in the Cameroon next year. And at that meeting, the recommendations of that committee that was set up in Trinidad just at the end of May 29th, 30th, and 31st, with the days of the meeting at Hilton in Trinidad. Those recommendations will then go to the heads of state. Now, what could we think of when we start to imagine this thing? Let's think for a second. One, repatriation, right? Marcus talked about it, Rastafarians still celebrate it. We don't give it much thought. We think, oh, well, nobody wants to go back to Africa. Rubbish. 7 fastest growing economies in the world. And I don't talk about going back now. Understand this. In 2 months, we're going to celebrate, or 2 or 3 months, we'll celebrate African History Month in Trinidad. This year, we're going to have a brother by the name of Isaiah Washington come down. Isaiah is a special brother. Why? He is the first African American to gain dual citizenship in a country in Africa because of DNA testing. Understand this. He went to a lab, had his DNA tested, so he could tell which African country his ancestors were from. Then he just went to the embassy and said, listen guys, I'm actually a descendant of your country. And now he has dual nationality. This is the wave of the future, brothers and sisters. Right? Now, Sister Deidre Farmer-Palman, who is a very special sister, and you are going to come to know her in a little while. She came to Trinidad a few months ago. What makes her special? We've been fighting for reparations now for the last, 200 years. Right? We say that we want our 40 acres and a mule, as the African Americans say. In the Caribbean, we just want something, man. Give us something for all those years of work that we've done. Right? But we've always lost. We haven't been able to get beyond talking about it. This sister, this one African-American woman, she said, you know what? The government doesn't allow us to sue it, right, in the United States. You cannot sue the government of the United States unless it gives you permission. So she thought about it. And she said, you know what? I am just going to sue those bloody companies who profited from slavery. In the last 10 years, this one sister has been able to win over $1 billion in reparation for African Americans. Let's give that sister a round of applause. So, we're talking about reconnecting with Africa. We're talking about reparations as well as part of the emancipation project. We're not going to let reparations go. We still want to see 350 years of servitude. All this is part of the emancipation project for the 21st century. We're not letting anything go. We want justice. So, brothers and sisters, these are just some of the things that we can consider and look forward to and envision and dream. And I'm telling you something, in our lifetime, right, even some of the brothers here who are great, you will see these shifts because of the work of people like Sister Martha. 100 years from now, and I know that the work that she's involved in is tedious, because I see my father is back and forth. They have to fly to the continent and come back, and sometimes they have a meeting and it doesn't go anywhere, and another meeting is progressive. It's going to be a rough haul for them. But 100 years from now, we will look back at the work of this Costa Rican woman and that brother from Trinidad, and we'll celebrate the pioneering part that they played in making things better, in reconnecting Africa and its diaspora. So we get all profit from the wealth of the continent from which our ancestors came. So on that note, brothers and sisters, I want to thank you all. It is an honor for me to have been able to come here and to share this opportunity with you. I want to encourage you to continue to take this emancipation thing seriously, to continue to give it your energy so that it can grow. I want to encourage you to join an organization if you're not part of one, and to make sure that your organization works with another organization that has similar interests, if you're part of one already, so that we as a people could become stronger and stronger, so that we could prepare ourselves. So when Sister Martha comes to us and says, we have reached the point now where you can vote and elect your own representatives on the counter. They'll no longer be appointed. My time is done. When she comes and says, I've done my part, now you can vote. You will be prepared to find somebody suitable to go forward and represent you. Somebody who will take the ideas that you've developed in your own organizations that are in your interest to that great decision-making body on the African continent. And so, brothers and sisters, for me, it is an extraordinary pleasure to stand in this hall and to share with you, my brothers and sisters from the Caribbean. I thank you for the honor. I appreciate this, and I wish you love and success in this emancipation project. Thank you very much.